I sank onto the metal step stool outside exam room 3, pulled my stethoscope off my neck like it weighed 10 pounds, and realized I hadn't eaten since yesterday's lunch. Down the hall, through the reception window, I could see him. Nolan Brekke, the new hospice volunteer, laughing with old Mrs. Aldous like he'd known her for years instead of 11 days. My name is Farrah Whitlock, and I'm a hospice nurse at Willowmere Home Care, a converted Victorian on the edge of Marsh Bend, Ohio, where the porch still creaks the way it did when the place was somebody's actual house. We take in patients when the hospitals run out of things to try. It is not, most days, a place where you expect to fall for anyone. You expect to hold hands while people say goodbye to other hands. You expect to learn names you'll say at funerals. You do not expect a 34-year-old man in a flannel shirt to show up on a Tuesday with a guitar case and turn the whole building sideways. He's not even supposed to be back there, I told Callie, our office manager, the first week. Volunteers stay in the common room. He asked Mrs. Aldous if he could play her something, Callie said, not looking up from the fax machine. She said yes. What was I going to do? Tell a dying woman no? I didn't have an answer for that. I still don't, honestly. That's the thing about this job. There's a rule book and then there's the actual shape of a person's last good afternoon, and half of what makes this work is knowing which one to follow when they don't line up. Nolan had lost his older brother to ALS 2 winters back, up in Toledo, and somewhere in the middle of that, he decided the thing to do with the wreckage was come play music for strangers who were doing the same slow leaving his brother had done. He wasn't trained. He wasn't clinical. He brought snacks that violated at least 2 dietary restrictions before I caught him, and every single patient in that building lit up like a porch light when his truck pulled into the gravel lot. I resented him for about 3 weeks. Not because he did anything wrong, because he made it look easy, the tenderness part, the part I had to build calluses around just to survive a full shift. I'd spent 4 years learning how to say, "I'm so sorry," without my voice breaking. He just walked in and cried openly with a man named Walt over a Merle Haggard song, and Walt held his hand like they were cousins. "You're allowed to feel things too, you know," he told me one evening, after Walt had drifted off and we were both leaning against the porch rail with paper cups of the terrible coffee Callie insists on brewing. "You don't get extra nurse points for staying dry-eyed." "I get through the day," I said. "That's the whole job description." Getting through isn't the same as being there. I wanted to argue with him. I didn't, because some infuriating part of me suspected he was right, and because the porch light was catching the side of his face in a way that made arguing feel like a waste of a good evening. Here's the part I didn't tell anybody for a long time. I'd stopped letting myself get close to families years ago, ever since a patient named Iris Calloway, back when I was fresh out of school, made me promise to check on her husband after she passed, and I never followed through, because following through hurt too much, and I was 24 and didn't yet know how to carry that particular weight without dropping something else. I built a wall after Iris. Professional distance, I called it. Self-preservation is what it actually was. And Nolan Brekke, guitar case and all, was standing on the wrong side of that wall, cheerfully unaware he wasn't supposed to be there. The turn came in October, with a patient named Desmond Ruiz, 68 years old, a retired railroad conductor whose daughter Priscilla flew in from Sacramento the week the doctor said it was close. Desmond loved trains and terrible puns and had a laugh you could hear through 2 closed doors. Nolan played him depot songs, actual old railroad ballads, the kind you'd only know if you went looking. And Desmond would tap the rhythm against his blanket with 2 fingers, slower every day. The night he died, it was Nolan and me both in the room, because Priscilla had stepped out to call her brother and hadn't made it back in time, and none of us had planned it that way. Afterward, in the hallway, I did the thing I never do. I cried, actually cried, shoulders shaking, and Nolan didn't say anything wise or comforting. He just put his arms around me and let me ruin his shirt, and I let him, which scared me more than the crying did. "I keep thinking about Priscilla," I said into his collar. "She's going to carry that, not making it back, for the rest of her life." "Maybe," Nolan said. "Or maybe she'll remember that her dad wasn't alone, and that's the part that stays." I don't know which one of us that was really about. Maybe both. It's the kind of question I still turn over. Whether the thing you regret missing matters as much as the thing that actually happened in the room, or whether we build our own guilt out of moments that were never as empty as we think they were. I'd be curious what anyone who sat in a hospital hallway at 2 a.m. would say to that. Priscilla found us like that when she came back, and instead of looking betrayed that a hospice nurse was crying in a volunteer's arms in her father's hallway, she just nodded, like it made sense, like it was proof the place had actually loved him too. Nolan and I didn't kiss that night. It would have felt wrong, grief still that fresh in the walls. But 2 weeks later, on the porch, coffee cups long empty, he reached over and tucked a piece of hair behind my ear, slow enough that I could have stopped him, and I didn't. When he kissed me, it tasted like the terrible coffee, and it was, somehow, exactly right. Callie caught us through the office window and did not let either of us live it down for a month. We're careful about the wall now, Nolan and I. Not the one I built after Iris. That one came down brick by brick over that whole autumn, but a different one, the honest kind, about what this work costs and what it doesn't have to cost alone anymore. He still shows up on Tuesdays with the guitar. I still hold hands while people say goodbye to other hands. But there's a man on the porch now who holds mine too, afterward, and somewhere along the way I stopped thinking of that as a weakness and started thinking of it as the only thing that ever made the job survivable. Sometimes I think about Iris Calloway's husband, the one I never checked on, and I wonder if he ever forgave me for the promise I broke. I'll never know. But I think Desmond Ruiz knew, in that hallway, that nobody breaks their promise to stay right up until the very end. And if you ask me, that's the one that actually counts.